Morning, welcome everybody. I know it's a little bit cool in here, but we've asked to turn up the temperature. So in the meantime, just huddle and use your body warmth to warm everybody up. Welcome to our network gathering. My name is Eric Story, and I'm going to be your MC for today. But you see, that's what I thought. Okay, is that any better? Okay, I'll just keep shouting. So, good morning. My name's Eric Story, and I'm going to be your MC for today. First, I'd like to ask Brian Dunphy to come up and do a land acknowledgement for us.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming this morning. We're gathering here this morning in Amiskwaciwasahikam, which in Cree is Beaver Hill House, the original name for this area where Edmonton now resides. I'm pleased to acknowledge that this area where we live and we work is part of Treaty 6 territory, which runs across central Alberta and into Saskatchewan. This has long been a traditional gathering place for diverse populations of Indigenous peoples, including the Ahiwak, the Dene, Anishinaabe, Sotu, the Dakota Eskay, and the Tisha Blackfoot peoples. My apologies for any mispronunciation. Like Eric and my fellow board members, I've completed the 4 seasons of reconciliation program offered by the First Nations University of Canada, and have a little bit of understanding now of the history and the culture of Indigenous peoples across Canada. Okay. And not something over history and cultures of Indigenous people across Canada, better understanding of the history and the impact, residential schools, 60 schools, and going forward of the requirements for reconciliation. So I hope and I pray and I trust that the spirit of Treaty 6 and the reconciliation will carry forward for as long as the sun shines as it is today, the grass grows, and the wind blows. And leading here today, may our action and our voices support the growing bond of understanding and trust with every growing day as we go forward. So thank you very much. Enjoy the day and thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Just a few housekeeping notes for today. The washrooms are located just outside the main doors. In case of emergency, please exit the building through the nearest exit. The muster point is located in the parking lot in front of the building. And please note that we have a photographer with us today who will be taking photos. If you do not want to have your photo taken, could you please let our photographer know? That's Megan. She's waving her hand over there. So we're also joined by Jeff, our closed captioner from WizCap. If you're finding it difficult to hear, you're invited to sit closer to the screen. There are a few spots reserved near the front of the room. We will be making a draw for a gift basket at the end of the program. Make sure you have a ticket. They were handed out throughout the table upon arrival. But if you did not get one, just put your hand up, and one of our staff or volunteers will ensure that you receive one. And I know that sitting at events like this can be very tiring, so please feel free to get up, walk around, grab a coffee, use the washroom, whatever you feel like. And so our agenda for today, what to expect today. I thought you'd never ask, or I thought the slide would never appear. If we're looking at this. The most important part is we gathered here today because we all have a common interest in serving seniors, and we all want to get together with other people with similar interests. So I'm hoping that you're going to use this opportunity to do that. That was way off script, but I always tell them they can write me a script, but I never follow it anyway. So You'll notice that there's some posters displaying AFE initiatives on the far wall to my left over there. And so we invite you to have a look. We also welcome you to visit the ESCC booth for resources and information. And these class bring materials or handouts for their organizations. Materials can be found on the table next to the ESCC table. So before I introduce our next speaker, I have a few comments on today's gathering. The theme tells us we're celebrating age-friendly in all we do. And there is a second reason to celebrate today. Age-friendly principles and values will now be more permanently embedded in our growing network. Over the past year, the network and age-friendly initiative have worked together to merge their shared vision for our sector and combine two leadership groups into the stewardship group. Many of you will be familiar with this next graphic, as we have used it a lot recently. It shows an age-friendly city with healthy community and strong senior serving sector, a strong senior serving sector. Everyone here should be able to find themselves in this picture somewhere. And the next slide shows the vital connections and collaborations that are needed to realize this vision. The network is a way and a means of bringing people together to work on shared goals. So I'm about to introduce someone that everybody knows a little bit about community. He knows a little bit about community connections, a lot about community connections. And that's Michael Fair, former city councillor. And his title that he prefers using is a community activator, which I think is perfect. And many of you know him as a former city councillor and an advocate for the 2S LGBTQ plus community. Welcome, Michael. Come on.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thanks for that introduction. And thank you all for being here today. I'm absolutely delighted to have the chance to be with you and give you a few thoughts on my part. But I know the work you have in front of you is even more important than whatever I might say to you this morning. And you're looking at it moving forward in a very significant and important way for many years to come. So just a couple other little things about myself that I would just mention personally is that currently I am the Chancellor of St. Stephen's College at the U of A. I'm also coordinator of the Edmonton Pride Senior Group, which I'll mention a little bit more about a little bit later. All of a sudden I start reverberating. Maybe I'm too close, too far away, too close. Okay, so as I was mentioning, I'm also the coordinator of the Edmonton Pride Senior Group. I'll mention a bit later more about that. I'm also a member on the Edmonton Homer Trust, one of their committees that works with Edmonton Homer Trust is a major organization that provides support to organizations that are dealing with people who are homeless. So just to let you know, I'm still around being active. I think I got to do that too. And I want to begin by, first of all, thanking Brian for the land acknowledgement. I want to add a little bit more to that acknowledgement from my perspective for today. This is, as we all know, and as Brian indicated, we are all treaty people. We're all committed to that. But I want us to learn today the lessons from Indigenous peoples about elders. Aging well was an honored achievement in most Indigenous groups. Elders were recognized for their wisdom, and elders were respected for their stories of the history of their people. And I want us to take that as part of what we're doing today. So we are hopefully building on that tradition that goes back thousands of years, that aging well is an honored achievement. Elders were recognized for their wisdom, and elders were respected for their stories of the history of the people. So I recognize many of you in this room. I'm delighted to see many and to renew some of those friendships. And there are many of you I don't know particularly well at this point, and hopefully I'll meet some more of you as the day goes on. But I want to start by thanking all of you for all that you've done over the last many years. And many of you have been involved for many years, working with different organizations and groups in many ways that are supportive of people who are aging in our community. So today is an opportunity to both think about that and to move forward in another kind of way that really brings everyone together for the purpose that you're here for. And I would suggest that you are moving forward as a community of practice, evolving into a network of organizations coming together for a common kind of purpose. Perhaps it would be useful if I said a few words about what I think the word community means. So there are a lot of definitions for community. One of them is it's a group of people with a common characteristic or interest in living together. Another definition is a body of individuals of common and professional interests scattered throughout a larger society. A body of persons with a common history or common social, economic, and political interests. Or a group linked by a common policy. And I spent yesterday evening with a group, Public Interest Alberta, that want to save our pension plan. And their effort is to have a community across the province, a network that will be working on this. So it's a new sense of a community for a particular purpose, just as an example of what I think some of this means. I think also, besides the definitions, you all, as I can, think of a number of communities that we are part of, and many that we've been part of in the past and that we currently are. And so I would use as a couple of examples talking about myself, that as I said at the beginning, I'm with the Edmonton Pride Senior Group, a group of individuals who come primarily, but not exclusively, from the queer community. And I'll use that term as inclusive of everyone, the LGBT, because the alphabet I can't remember. As many of us can, I mix it up, kind of thing that as well. So I'll just use it, call it the queer community. And we are there as a community who looking at what can we do to make life better for older gays and lesbians as they are aging in Edmonton. And we've been at it for a number of years. I also just recently was at a celebration with the Caribbean Women's Network Council. We were celebrating Diwali. And at that group that I'm part of, even though it's called the Women's Association, many of us are that are there are not women. And much of the history of the Caribbean, the people and folks came from India way back when, as well as many blacks who were essentially slaves. The people from India were indentured servants, which is a little different than slaves, but up a step maybe. And it was intriguing that at Diwali, which is about light and celebration of light, and as you think backwards, that this celebration goes back 1,000 years or more, and you realize there's no electricity in the lights, how important light was in people's life at that time, and the celebration that comes with it. And at the ceremony, which included about 50, 60 people, there was a smudging with an elder that we had. Then we had someone from the Black community talking about what some of this meant, and then also from the East Indian population as well. So it was a very interesting community pulled together around a celebration of light. And that's another kind of community that I've been involved in. I'm also fortunate in a way that I never expected, that there is a school at the west end of the city that happens at junior high school that happens to have a name you would recognize. It's actually the Microfair Junior High School. And I've been involved with that school since it began, when it was just a piece of ground before it was even built. But I'm part of that school community. I've been many times and I will continue. So recently went with a group of students as part of remembrance, going to a cemetery and putting wreaths and poppies on the on an area of the cemetery that members who died in the First, Second, Fourth Korean War were at. They also had a celebration at the school that I attended and read the poem "Where Poppies Grow." I will attend a number of other events. I was there for Reading Week. I'll be handing out certificates at the end of the year for particular students. It's a community that I'm very much a part of. Never expecting to be part of something like that. But when I go there, students know who I am. They yell at me, "Oh, Mr. Farrell," and all this kind of thing and that from all the different grades. And it is such a way that I wander throughout by myself. No one needs to take me. I can go anytime I want to just wander through kind of thing that you. The staff there, all of the staff, and the staff that do the cleaning, they're good friends of mine. In the summertime, they're the only ones there that let me in. I've learned that that's how you get things done sometimes. So that's just some examples of community. And so it's a term, I think, that encompasses a great deal of kinds of things that may be. And I would suggest that that's what you are all growing into, is another kind of community kind of thing. And that's part of why you're here today. I think, as I see it, in many sense, it's also a journey, and it's a story. It's a story that's similar to what I mentioned about Indigenous people and elders telling the story of their people. That is an opportunity for all of you to be telling that story as a particular kind of community. And I think that it's a story that's important, and I also think that it's something that you need to realize how significant that is for you to be doing that. You are working and supporting aging well, and you are listening and looking for people who are seeking, have experience, and they have wisdom. You're also learning and listening to aging persons personally as they talk about themselves or their world or their family that are there. You are also aligning yourself and working with, again, older individuals, coalescing, addressing goals and purposes together with them to move forward as they are seeing the end of life in front of them. Today's seniors, I would suggest that we are trying to rethink what we know and how we visualize seniors and how we not only work with them, but how we see their stature within the society that we live in. And there's a whole set of new terms, I think, that have started to come about. Aging artfully, which is something that the Alberta Gallery of Art has a whole program called Aging Artfully, where they particularly have programs where they draw in older people that they want to come to the art gallery, and they're using that term, aging artfully. There's the Healthy Aging Alberta, which had a summit in Calgary recently with over 300 people attending, another 200 that online. Again, looking at that whole notion of healthy aging kind of thing, and talking about how that's part of being aging is healthy. And of course, it relates to the United Nations looking at older folks and what makes a difference in their lives. Kind of thing. That's the healthy part that gets emphasized. And then the group I'm with in the Edmonton Pride Senior Group, we have an Aging with Pride program that Eric is very much a part of and actually runs. And that's why it's successful, of course, kind of thing. That we present every week a program dedicated specifically to aging with pride. And so, for example, at this past week, yesterday, we talked about funeral homes, dying, what you need to know, and as part of it, a conversation that is important and significant and needs to be talked about with people who are aging, kind of thing of that. And we have other topics like that that we look at, and we look at it in terms of being older individuals, kind of thing, and can have that kind of discussion. And people talk about, oh, you know, who am I going to leave what to, and what do I need to do legally, and all that kind of good stuff. And we do it as part of the aging process. And that's part of what it means to be aging. And I think that in that rethinking about what we know about and think about in our society for older folks, that it is important that the environment that people are aging in Edmonton also, I think, has changed dramatically. But first of all, I think the number of older Edmontonians is very significantly higher than it has been at any time in history. So that we're looking at a very large number of people. And I think that's a little different than 30 years ago or 40 years ago. That's it there. I think that also that many times we talk about seniors and we use oftentimes the age of 60, 65, perhaps that's very different today than it was 50 years ago. That 60, 65-year-olds are not thought of many times as anything more than just kind of senior, but I'm not old, kind of thing of that. And in fact, many people at that age are seeing themselves as contributing individuals, that they make valuable contributions to the world and the city they live in. They're still part of families, and oftentimes it's their children and grandchildren in addition. They're actively involved with, and then involved with different kinds of organizations and groups. Just as many of you who might pretend like me to be 18 plus, but you're really quite a bit more than that, continue to be part of different organizations and groups as well. And we think of ourselves perhaps as older seniors, but in fact, we're still fairly young. And I think it's important to look at for all of us that the social, personal history of people who are 70 or 80 means that their history goes back to the 1940s. And think about how different that was and what a unique time that was for people growing up then. And many of you in this room may remember some of that. And many of you won't want to remember them, but yes, you lived through them as well. It was an era when radios were the big new item. Who knew? Back in the 1930s and 40s, radio was a big deal. There was no TV yet at that point. And one of the things that I find interesting in myself and looking backwards a bit is I remember when my mother was about 90 and I was with her, we were driving somewhere, kind of thing and that, and she had been reading, my mother read all her life. She was reading something about the spirit of St. Louis and Charles Lindbergh's trip across the Atlantic Ocean back in about the 1930s, kind of thing, and that. And I remember saying, you know, that was kind of a big deal. And she was like, a big deal? Oh my word. My mother was probably about 10 at that time. She said, anyone had a radio, we're listening to it. She said, everybody in my family came. If you didn't have a radio, you went to your neighbors. And we listened as he got up in the air in New York and could listen. It was being reported almost every minute until he left Canada, flying to Newfoundland, and then was lost. There was no way to communicate in those times. And so she said there was this silence all of a sudden. And, you know, people then eventually went to bed and they got up the next morning, turned on the radios immediately. There was nothing about Lindbergh. And later in the day, he was sighted in Ireland, kept flying over, and that was sent by telegraph back to the States, back to radio stations on. And she said there was this scream you could hear throughout the whole community that he made it across the ocean. Got to think that she was absolutely exuberant as she told about it, as she remembered as a child, kind of thing, that with her brothers, sisters, parents, all listening to the radio, kind of thing, and everything that going on. That's an experience that people today, if they're younger, is hard to not hard. It's just it's not seen in the same way because that traveling from New York to Paris is kind of no big deal. But in those days, that was a huge deal, and it was partly so significant because of the radio, the communication that was available at that time. And you think back as well, back in those days of 1940s, et cetera, and that there were no pensions. Some of you will maybe remember back then, maybe not that thing, but there were no pensions in those days either. It was an unknown kind of thing. And it meant that older people ran into all kinds of issues if they didn't have the financial wherewithal that was there. And retirement was chosen at 65. It wasn't imagined. It wasn't like somehow they picked 65 instead of 67 or 55 or 58. It was very clearly that in establishing a pension plan, which came in the late 40s and 50s and in many places, including Canada, it was like the number that reached that age is not real high. So we're going to have some folks that have been contributing, they're gone, kind of thing. And many people who are 65, they last until they're 70. And so we're only paying out for a relatively short period of time. Well, that is dramatically different than what we have today. So realizing that many people who like yourselves here, how pensions, for example, have become such a significant part of our lives and what that means to us today. But that wasn't true way back in those early days. So I think that's part of the notion now that most people think of being old not until you're in your 70s or 80s. And many senior centers and programs will tell you that the majority of the people they deal with are not under 60s anymore. They're people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I think with there comes some additional thinking that we need to be aware of and that are important for us. All of that has made many of us across Canada and elsewhere look at such movements as healthy aging, kind of thing, and that aging artfully and aging with pride, and looking at the notion then of home. What does that mean for someone that's 70, 75, or 80? It might be a home house, or it might be an apartment, or it might be community living, but not at 60, more likely at 70 or 80, kind of thing of that as well. I think it also is part of the reason why we are more concerned about the physical environment than perhaps we have been in the past. And I'm talking about in Edmonton, where ice and snow drive almost anyone 70 plus crazy, kind of thing, and that too, and fearful of falling and being out in the ice and cold that we have in our winters. And it isn't that people weren't somewhat concerned about that before, but the numbers today and the numbers that are 70 and 80 and in their aging, being mobile is really still significant, and how much that affects us. I've mentioned one that I know that's in a senior residence chose the one that they're in because it has access to petways, etc., and never goes outside during those months at all for fear of falling at that. I also tell a real story that happened to me last winter here in Edmonton. I was walking home. I live in Oliver, and I was just half a block away by a small high-rise, and I looked at the driveway from the sidewalk that goes in under the building, and I could tell someone was laying on the ground there. As I got closer, I realized that it was a woman, and it was an older woman. And I was carrying some groceries in that one home. And then I decided, I stopped. I thought, I then said, so are you all right? And what I heard was, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'll be okay. And clearly was not all right, kind of thing that. Right. And then I said, well, let me come and see what I can help you kind of, get up. So there are two things that not very big. And the woman was a little bigger than I was, kind of thing that. So she's laying on what is ice on this driveway that goes in underground, kind of thing that. And every time I tried to pull her up a bit, and she put her foot on the ground, immediately slid away, and that because it was just ice, kind of thing and that too. So I tried moving around and doing that 3 or 4 times, not very successfully. And of course, I can't, I couldn't possibly lift her. And that was, kind of that. And then she was, at any time her foot got onto the up at all, it slid away. So then a young woman was walking, and she said, "Oh, how are you having tried?" I said, "Yeah, I'm trying." So she came. So the two of us tried, and we got nowhere as well, kind of thing of that as well. And we were both kind of desperate to that because the ice was just, and she couldn't do anything, and we couldn't do anything either. Effectively, we tried. Lo and behold, some guy in his pickup driving by, and he pulled down his window and said, "You have any problems?" We said, "Yeah, I'm there." And he said, "Oh, wait a minute, I'll come and help." So he drove around, parked. He came. Let us say he was probably 3 times my size. And he came and put his arms under hers and pulled her right up, kind of hold her, kind of thing that. So she was able to stand, kind of thing that. And she said, "Oh, okay, fine." And he said, "Oh no, we're keeping with you." Well, the two of us, the second one and myself, were on the other side of her helping. And he said, "We're making sure you get in the building before we leave," kind of thing that. Took her around, got into the entranceway. But it was a lesson. I was useless, but it was a lesson about how difficult that can be, kind of thing. That in the back of my mind, even today, I think if somebody hadn't done something, she'd still be lying there on the ice until it melted, or kind of thing. That which, of course, with detrimental, and that too. And she, like many older people, don't want to. "I'm fine, just leave me, I'll be okay," kind of thing. That too. Like, you won't be okay, kind of thing. That too. It goes back to understanding that the environment that we live in here in Edmonton has some things that are particularly significant for people who are aging. And I know at times that there is this complaint. People say, "Oh, well, if people don't shovel, but that's not big of a deal." It's like, oh, yes, it is, kind of thing. That for a group of people in this population, it's a big deal, kind of thing. That as well. That's thinking about the environment we live in, the physical environment that we live in, and ensuring that we do the things that are significant for that too. I think what we are also seeing today is the changes, issues around aging, and I'm talking about the notion of chronic illness that we hear so much more about. And to think about that if you die, many people who died years ago in their 50s or 60s, chronic illness was not generally one of the major items. For today, I think we see that. And I hardly need to mention about memory loss and Alzheimer's. And with those 3 comes the other aspect that we do need to know more about and do work, and that is isolation and loneliness. If you are having trouble with mobility or chronic illness, kind of thing, or any of the others, you can very quickly become very isolated and very lonely. And that is something that many in this room, you all attend to, and how and why that is so significant for the people who are aging today is that age range that they're in, and how easy it is to end up isolated and lonely. During the pandemic, we saw that significantly, but it was there before that. It is still there today for us to be part of it. I think the last part that I want to indicate is that the work that you are envisioning moving ahead with as a network, and I think that the importance that that has for people who are older and are aging. And again, I'm talking about people and oftentimes are in 70 and 80 and 90, who also know that they're on the last part of that journey. And that they recognize that they're on that last part of the journey. And listening and hearing them talk about what they know from their past is also means that they are evaluating in their own way their life. Have I made a difference? Have I been effective? Did I raise children that I was happy about? Did I do things that make the world a better place to live in? And your work with them helps them to know that, yeah, it was worthwhile. You did a good job. We're glad you were here. We're glad you made a difference. And that is then older folks knowing that is the gift that they give to you and the rest of us. That they are showing you that life is worth living. You can make a difference. It's important what you do. Their ability to understand that and to talk about it when they're in their last phases of their life at 80 or 90, that's a gift. You have more than most people the opportunity to benefit from that gift as they're passing on to the rest of us. And I think that's really the time that's important to keep it for you to keep in mind as you become this network, as you build around, put the things together, that you are being part of that last portion that says, is it worthwhile? Did I do things that were valuable? And the answer is yes, you did. And you make it easy, not easy, you make it better. We know we can succeed as well. That's the gift you're giving back to us. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Anybody has a question for Michael? Just very quickly, we are on a timetable, but if anybody does have a question for Michael, let's hear it. Anybody? Oh, great. Okay. Well, that looked nice. I think the important part is that the collective action, like Michael described as the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group or so on, it's just a group of individuals in the community that came together and said, there's an issue here we want to work on. The advantage of this network gathering is that you're with a bunch of people who are also committed to making change in the community. And so it should be easier to find people who have got a common interest, who can identify common problems and common solutions. So with that, I think I'll bring our panel up, and Kathy Harvey is going to chair the panel. She's an AFE volunteer, and she'll moderate, so I'll part ways for her.
My name is Kathy Harvey, and I am volunteering with Age Friendly Edmonton. I have been for the last 5 years, and or 4 years, and I'm the co-chair of the Ageism Hub. I'm a retired professional event manager. In this stage of my life, I've been involved with Age Friendly Edmonton. I've continued my volunteering with the Edmonton Food Bank and the Christmas Bureau, and I'm embarking on some new projects which have to do with exploring different models of housing and for multi-generational folks and also for seniors. So I'm really excited about living this stage. As kind of senior. So maybe in our Ageism Hub we can explore kind of senior, and see what comes up with it. So over the last 10 years, Age Friendly Edmonton has worked at helping our community become an age-friendly place to live, work, and play, and has done this in a variety of ways and has mobilized hundreds of people to share in that mission. During the course of that time, there's been visioning and goal setting, there's been challenges and setbacks and achievements and accomplishments. They all roll together and arrive at this day, which has been dedicated to celebrate all of that and more. It's good to celebrate, and it's important to celebrate. And today is only a small portion of all that could be celebrated. And it is my pleasure and my honor to moderate this panel of community leaders who will be sharing some of their stories and successes. And so we have Shauna Walter and Shelley Williams and Yvonne Chu. And I'm going to ask them 3 questions. We're going to start with 2. They're going to have 2 questions to start with. They'll each answer the 2 questions, and then we'll return to the 3rd question. And they have about 8 minutes each in total. So I'm sure they've prepared, so they know what we're going to speak about. So I'm going to introduce, Jonah's going to start. So Jonah is the Director of Programs and Services with Caregivers Alberta and brings 20 years of experience and collaboration in the field of human services to her role supporting Alberta's 1 million family caregivers. 1 million, wow. A strong voice for caregivers and their care recipients. Shauna has contributed to an article published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, hosted a podcast called Life with Dementia, and published a book in 2014 entitled Through the Eyes of Dementia, a pocket guide of caregiving. So welcome, Shauna. And I'm going to ask you the first questions, which are, I'm going to ask both questions at the same time. So you all right. So describe a project or initiative of your organization that demonstrates age friendliness. That's question number 1. Question 2 is, what impact has your project or initiative had? And feel free to include any fictitious comments that may be published.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, it's an honor to be sitting up here with community leaders. As you heard, I am with Caregivers Alberta, nonprofit that serves the entire province of Alberta. We have an office here in Edmonton and a staff that is stationed remotely all over the place. We serve the family, the friend, that typical, what is labeled as a non-paid role, often doing healthcare services at home for loved ones. So they're essentially supplementing and propping up our healthcare system. And because of that, of course, we see a lot of individuals and a lot of people accessing our programs and services, which we're talking about, who are aging. So our definition of a caregiver is someone who's supporting someone with illness, disability, or aging-related needs. And our organization has been around for 21 years, and for a long time, a large part of the demographic we were serving certainly was the aging group. We are seeing a lot more people come to us now who are caring for loved ones with illness, acute and chronic illness, who are younger. People who are called the sandwich generation, raising children, caring for aging parents, and people who are dealing, with mental health and addiction. So our demographics serving is certainly being expanded, but the question of, what was the first question? Sorry.
The first question is, describe your project.
Yes, okay. Okay.
That demonstrates age friendliness.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what we offer because it's a plethora of programs and services that is supporting aging as well in communities, essentially. We hear that term thrown around before. Aging well, aging in place. And for me, what that means is you're aging in your place of choice. So a lot of the things that we discuss with caregivers, access to our support services are around it. And how do we help maintain and support the caregiver in their role to support their loved ones to continue aging as what they want, right? And so through the variety of our services, we are also addressing isolation, as Michael brought up. We are addressing that through our caregivers peer support programs. We have a support line that serves the entire province that are following. We have education sessions, and workshops, and luncheon events, and all of that is to provide education to that caregiver so they can continue supporting someone who is aging in place often. And caregivers are dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm. And the story I'm going to share is one of our caregivers yesterday actually attended a lunch and learn where we were one of 3 organizations presenting to the Canada Border Services, which was an interesting invite, but it was almost 300 people on this virtual gathering of Canada Border Services. And we were one organization, and another one, the Connects Autism Network, for example, was talking about the programs they offer education for Canada Border Services to support families dealing with children with autism traveling, which I never, I wouldn't have thought of that, right? But of course, that's a major challenge, going to security and all those stressful things in an environment. But we had a caregiver join us for that presentation to talk about the outcome and impact that accessing our programs and services was for her. And she was a lady who was right at retirement age. Her and her husband were on vacation, and he had a substantial stroke. And they were in the States at the time, so he was hospitalized down there. So they had to deal with the whole rigmarole of getting him back here. They got him home, and he wanted to remain at home with her. Obviously, she knew the same thing. But of course, they, all kinds of stuff in her office. About that time, COVID hit, and then her family decided that she was the most person capable, of how she put it, to also take care of her father-in-law. They took him out of a long-term care facility and put him in their home. So now she's caring for her father-in-law, who's aging, and her husband, who is also aging and dealing with a She said, I'm a very capable person. I've always considered myself capable, strong, independent, full-time worker. I supported people, teams and individuals. This was fine for a while, and then it wasn't fine. And he said, I was always ready to help people, and here I need to help. So she said the very first program she accessed was our peer support program, which we offer virtual peer support programs exclusively through our organization, and we partner with partners to offer in person. So our virtual programs have people doing, which is really cool because caregivers are getting to share their lived experience with others' participation. And we have found that to be a really successful model. She said that was the first program she accessed. And she said she left her camera, her mic off, and she just listened for a little bit. And she was struck by the fact that she finally found someone who understood what she was going through. Because until you have been in the shoes of a caregiver, you really don't know. You don't understand the stress that comes with that role. It's hard. It's challenging. And so, that was the very first program she accessed. And from there, she has, gone through everything. She's attended our lunch and learn. She's gone through our program called Compass for the Caregiver, which is a adult education style program. It talks about, how do you see yourself and recognize yourself in that role? What are the strengths within it? How do you manage the stress? How do you manage the balance, the changing relationships that are coming with your spouse, your loved one, your colleagues, your family, and your supporting system? And how do you plan ahead to avoid the stress when you come through? And so she said that program was a game changer for her. And I hear that constantly from people who go through that program. So I don't know how much time I get. I may be monopolizing time, so I apologize. But that's that's the success story that I'll share and a little bit about who we are.
Great, thanks, John. We think we have the few questions at the end, so you might even want to just jot down some of the questions if you Williams, who's the Executive Director of South Edmonton. has over 30 years of experience as an executive director with HIV Edmonton, the Bissell Centre, and Windhouse. Their passion is to help address community inequities and to ensure the voices of those impacted are at the table while fostering community collaborations and partnerships. So thank you for being here, Shelley. And your question, the main question of Jonna, is describe a project or initiative in your organization that demonstrates age friendly. And what impact has your project initiative?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pleased to be here. Yes, I'm the executive director and I started at CISA in December of last year. So I'm not quite a year old. I'm really young. And what's fascinating, of course, is that the Southeast Edmonton Seniors Association itself is age friendly. It is all about being age friendly and providing the opportunity for people to come of a variety of ages. I really say the 4 Bs, a variety of programming for the variety of members that have a variety of interests of a variety of ages. And even in the Southeast Edmonton Seniors Association, there's different generations. So we do see more of a spectrum. And one of the challenges I think ahead of us is actually, how is this going to evolve over time? How are these centers going to evolve and change? Because change is in the wind. But during COVID, the agency, of course, underwent through, as many did, a lot of challenges. And so I was newly hired as an executive director without one. And the whole goal was to sustain and start to build again. And there were many things going on in the organization. It was the volunteers that kept that organization going, and it was amazing. One of the things I noticed was the Girl Guides and the Embers were at the agency every week. And when I was talking to people and chatting with people, everybody loved the youth that they brought. And they also helped in the organization. So we provided space, but we also had an opportunity to connect with each other and help each other as organizations. And many of the individuals in the organization and the members wanted more of this, wanted more. So we didn't develop a goal. We didn't develop, okay, we're going to increase by 20% something or another. What we really did was talk about it at a conscious level and put it into our thinking, so that we would scan in community and try to figure out what would be a good connection. So we did it kind of organic by laying that seed of consciousness in the organization. And what came out of that thinking and scanning is we were able to get an opportunity to provide space for the Francophone Association to run their summer camp at the agency. So it was, again, an intergenerational kind of component of the aging friendly. And what that did was provide many opportunities for not only the people that were at the agency, the members and everything that they were participating in, that the kids could also participate in. That included our French conversation, but it also included clogging, yoga, art making. So they painted stones, they worked with the woodworkers, the crafts and quilters. I mean, there were 3 little boys that were so excited about making pin cushions. I mean, I'm not kidding. So it was just stunning. And we kept this kind of consciousness in. So we've also been able to expand some of our student programs. So this is our first-year medical students were already coming, our 4th-year medical students were already coming to the agency. And they were so thrilled, they actually went back to the university and said, we should be getting the first-year medical students also participating, because it's longer. It's not just 1-day placement, it's a 20-hour placement. And we just recently started the first-year medical students. We also have the U of A psychology 3rd-year students coming into the agency now. We have a new connection that we're hoping we'll be able to get some kinesiology students for the fitness area. And also nutrition from Nate in terms of our programming on the kitchen. So these kinds of initiatives really were driven by the people in the membership of the agency, but got expanded organically. And what we're really after is the depth. So what's been the impact? I think there's 4 really key areas. And the areas would include the elements of fun, because everybody was having fun with this. But it also, let me just read this, also demystifies so many of the things on aging. The 4th year students, psychology students, the kids, they really realize that people aren't sitting at home just feeling, you know, they're sitting there, yeah, I read, I watch TV. They're out there doing things and they're involved and they're active, because the storytelling back and forth, which is the second one, is the reciprocal learning is fantastic, because they're learning from each other around what the changes of the world is. And it's hearing some of the stories that Michael was referring to that's so important to have in our community and in our youth to be able to take forward. And so they see seniors, I as one of them, although a baby, as is so important that they're continuing to be engaged and learning around this. So really demystifying the reciprocal learning. The other piece is really about advocacy. And that advocacy is really the element that these youth and the seniors, by imparting those stories, are now going to their friends, to their families, and as they continue in their growth and development, they have a memory around how seniors are really different than what their initial thinking was. And that includes, by the way, the 4th year medical students. In terms of a story, there's somebody who volunteers at our organization, and she's identified, if it wasn't for the agency, she'd be home in despair, and it would be just a matter of time. That she really felt like if she couldn't get out of the house, she was frantic when we closed for 1 week to have our floors done, because what was she going to do? But she loves talking to those medical students and saying, you need to be involved and you need to make sure you're aware that not all seniors sit at home. And if seniors are sitting home, what are you doing to make sure that they're aware of the other community activities that are going on in their community, so that they can become involved in the areas that meet their different interests? And so the impact is huge for both, not only for the seniors themselves, but also for the people who are participating at that intergenerational level. And I think I've been talking lots too.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Shelley. That's very good. For now, go to Ron is the director of the multicultural strategy. He's a long-time partner, SAGE, in the multicultural senior outreach program, while working as a researcher in public health. Yvonne met the founding members of MCHP. She was moved by these visionary women leaders, and she left public health to support their community work as cultural brokers. So welcome. Thank you, Kathy. So your question, you'd say, you got it. You got it.
I'm so happy to be here. I see all of my wonderful colleagues that we're aging together, and young colleagues we're finally seeing in person, and shocked how short I am, right? You know, most of you know about the multicultural health brokers. We're actually turning 25. And on Tuesday next week, we'll be celebrating downstairs. It's created by natural leaders of the different ethno-cultural communities doing the work out of love for the community. And the work with the senior is our most favorite. We just love our seniors to pieces. And the one I want to bring up today is actually a model that we developed with SAGE from 2005, and long supported by Hampton Senior Coordinating Council. And I put some propaganda material on the table, not enough for everyone, but it's a 2-page visual On one side, you see different circles, on the other side, you see a really complicated 5 spheres. What I wanted to say is, my presence here today is to remind all of us, we have very beloved colleagues who work every day for seniors, equity-seeking seniors, Indigenous seniors, seniors who live in poverty, seniors of ethno-cultural background. And age-friendly is so much about that. Age-friendly actually carries radical intention in it. So why I wanted to bring out the model that co-created since 2005 is for us to never forget. Age-friendly is about ensuring age dignity and to be understood. And so when you look at the diagram, you have to share, everyone, be good to each other. The one with the multiple circles, actually, Lisa and I presented 10 years ago at the conference. We want to change it. What you see is many circles that indicate socioeconomic, maybe political marginalization of poverty, of system of understanding, transportation issue, on and on and on. But in the center, I want to change it. In the center is the magnifying bubble, language and cultural discourse. Seniors are viewed as not lacking English, right? And as Michael said, they are the carrier of knowledge. They are the multilingual gifts to all of us, right? Yet because they don't have a chance to truly learn English the way they can at this time of their life, they are struggling. Everywhere they turn, they are viewed as unable to speak, unable to hear, unable to take action. And so what I really wanted us to understand, at least today, about ethnocultural seniors is oftentimes they're not really understood for the everyday struggles that they have. Mostly magnified by cultural distance between themselves and the system, but also the recurring cultural barriers. Everywhere they turn, they have difficulties. Yet the best English learning students, under 35, under 45 degrees, they're still going to English classes where they could find it, right? So please remember this diagram and add and magnify that. But what is at the core that we didn't mention is what Michael mentioned. In our culture, our elders are truly the honor. They carry the knowledge, the ancient wisdom. And yet, as many of us know at home, they're the ones sitting in the corner because children are ashamed of their languages, ashamed of those who cannot relate to the system in the optimal way. So who is the most marginalized? The seniors, right? That is heartbreaking for the seniors. They're suffering from existential pain. So knowing who these seniors are, what can we do to help them not only age well, but age with dignity? Isn't that important, right, everyone? And so when you see that in the next page is the model that we generated in 2005. We used 25,000, is it? That's New Horizon funding, right? Yes. We used that in 2005 alongside our SAGE colleague and Edmonton Senior Coordinating Council. We illustrated a model that's so much about building community. Michael said community is all that is about building strength, right? Capacity for change. And what building community is mostly about is having honoring relationships, isn't it? Well, in this room, we are all the intermediaries. We are with the seniors. We are also connected with systems. And so this model is so much about us as intermediaries, truly helping the reality of seniors be deeply known and responded to. And so the 5 spheres of empowerment, how many of you are from public health or training in public health? Health promotion, anyone? Okay, many of us know in health promotion is the most practical invention, right? Health promotion believes that people really truly know what are the solutions for themselves, but it won't be known if they are not accompanied by others who could pay attention and make visible their struggles, strengths, and aspirations. So the 5 spheres of empowerment, I hope many of you will see, oh, this is what we're doing. The first sphere is at the very bottom. It's about very attentive personal care. And so many of us in this room, we are them. We are alongside the seniors, actually for many years. We know them deeply, right? Honoring them, helping them navigate the system. It is really our everyday work. Unfortunately, we are experiencing and witnessing very deep marginalization. Poverty needs are not met for many of our seniors, right? So there's so much work to be done in the one-on-one honoring holistic support. The second layer is about bringing the seniors together, what we call bonding. And many of us in this room do that, right? When the seniors come together, their potential will be activated. Many of our seniors come together to learn English and sometimes just to sing together because their hearts are aching. Their children are left at home in unsafe situations, right? The mutual support, the mutual learning is very powerful. Whenever they learn about the system, they go and tell more seniors in their communities, where group work is so much about empowerment. The third layer is, as Michael said, we are all part of communities. Our seniors are too. How is that very community that they're part of also activated, given potency to create actions for change? And of course, in our communities, ethnocultural, whether it's Syrian, Ukrainian, or Eritrean, or many, many communities, we also have capable leaders and capable activators, right? When that part of the community is activated to honor seniors, the potential is incredible. And all the leaders are saying, how can we help our seniors age in a graceful way where their language or culture would be recognized? Many parents, many caregivers are so fearful of their seniors maybe go to facilities where they could not communicate with anyone, where they don't get the comfort of culturally honoring food, right? That fear is so much about engaging our leaders in creating the right solutions for their beloved seniors, right? That's the third spheres of empowerment. So far, it's really rooted in the community with the seniors. The last two is about systems. Sphere 4, which we do a lot in this room, is we collaborate, but we have to collaborate very intentionally with systems that has a responsibility over major struggles, right? From income security to housing. There's so many aspects that we have to develop very close relationships. I know in this room, because of social prescribing, we're beginning to have very close relationships with the healthcare system, but that is not enough. Many of our seniors, no matter how they come, they have to wait minimally 10 years to access old age security. Those are policy issues that even when we link arms together, we're not able to change, right? So the last sphere is really important. It's about efforts that we will all take alongside of our seniors to affect change in the core legislation and systemic barrier that's keeping our seniors suffering. And I know at this moment, many of us are wondering, how come there's no rent control? How come there's no effort to make sure, no matter what immigration status the seniors come, there's adequate income support, right? These are really important, high-level issues that we have to link arms and work together on. So I feel like that 5 years of empowerment that we illustrated in the model we started in 2005 is still really relevant, maybe even more relevant than 2005. Okay, what I'm sad to say was we thought that was a pilot in 2005, but it got stuck as pilotitis. So I know we have about 100 of us here today. I hope that model also makes sense to you with the population of seniors that you serve that are seeking equity. How can we bring that back and in an even stronger way, right? So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I love all these words: radical, stunning. You know, all the maybe you wrote down a few as well. Wonderful. We are we're in a little bit of a time crunch, so rather than going to the third part of collaborating, although we spoke about that as well, that was very helpful. We're going to go and see if there's any questions from the floor. We have time for 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll see. So there's a lady over here.
Hey, I'm sure. Yeah.
organization.
One person.
Well, I'll just quickly say that, Alberta is just embarking on, the label of waste contributing. And so I love to see that there's many organizations sitting at that table, and Caregivers Alberta is. So I think we're just getting that sort of off the ground and getting our feet wet there.
Let's just keep up being familiar with that.
Yeah, well, everyone, we know that social prescribing is a bit imported, right, from the UK. I think we need our own version of social prescribing because our system here has been struggling and starving for a long, long time. We don't have the adequate resources in place to serve the seniors adequately through social prescribing, right? What we need is really solid outreach, long-term outreach for the seniors, particularly if they're equity seeking. Yeah.
Any other questions? Or shall we?
I was just gonna say, I think another one is that accessibility, social prescribing, but actual accessibility from financial perspective, transportation perspective, a whole variety of aspects really need to happen along the outreach. Perfect, thank you.
And just one final thing, to me, social prescribing is collaboration. Like that is collaboration among multiple organizations. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, maybe one final comment from each of you, and we'll close our.
Well, I like Michael's statement around collective action. And so to me that, in my head, that takes the idea of collaboration to the next level of collective action. And social prescribing is a great example of that, of how you're bringing people together to collaborate, to make sure you have wraparound that are supporting people, whether they're aging or whether they're at the younger, bracket. But so I like that. Michael, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's with.
I would say just don't underestimate the aspect of advocacy to youth and what that might mean for us in the future. And every opportunity we get to share with people of different ages, it's a wonderful thing to do. And Francophone Group will be coming back next year.
Maybe I end by sharing there's three types of social capital that social scientist Jean Kuhn said Canada really needs because we're a pluralistic society with Indigenous roots. She said we need bonding, supporting seniors to develop relationship with those they have kinship with, right? Bonding. Linking, supporting seniors across different populations to be together and learn from each other. But the last one, linking, is really important, that those of us in support of them must make sure people who make decisions about them truly understand them and relationship with them, and truly bring about the change that they deserve. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing. And most importantly, thank you for your passion and your dedication to the work that you do. And you're just a small example. There's many people in this room who have their stories of success too. And that's what we bring together today. So,
Thank you so much to Kathy and our panelists. Really wonderful insights. What we'd like to do now is introduce the table talk activity.
Thanks, everyone. That was so wonderful. I know our group had some really wonderful conversation. I hope everyone else did as well. Is there any groups that just wanted to share a few brief thoughts about what they've learned from this conversation? Not everyone. Yeah.
Oh, just hang on. Let's use the line so everybody can hear.
Hi, Arlene from the Alzheimer's Society. I think at our table, we would say, one, there's lots of great work being done in our province and city. And there's lots of different ways you can make connections to each other and try to be more proactive. Arlene?
Is there anything else you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from others.
Dan? Every time I come to one of these network sessions, I go a little bit more.
our table.
Here at our table, we just talked about how, oh, I'm Krista with the Edmonton Seniors Coordinating Council. We really talked about this year that one of the successes is that we really kind of diversified the voices at the table. Even just in this room, having partners within health, within government, within city, within community, and actually being able to start to have these conversations really intentionally. She's going to talk about aging with healthy longevity and how we're living older, we're living for longer span of a life period, and just how that's impacted the need for positive and quality life throughout those years. So just really that some of the work that's being done is so important, and we're making those initial steps, and it just shows that there's still work yet to be done as we move together, but that we're moving in the right direction.
Amazing. Thank you, Krista. Is there anyone else who wanted to share?
Thank you.
Oh, Shalini over here. Great.
Hi, I'm Shalini. I'm a program coordinator at Melbourne Seniors. So, as far as I understand, what reflects age-friendly principles are anywhere, doesn't matter what the activity is, where the members meet under one roof, and moreover, they make connections to stay in contact even after they're gone. They have left that space, and even then they stay in touch. They share their contacts. That solves the main, I would say that that's a purpose, so that they are not isolated, even if, because suppose we are the program coordinators, we are not attending all programs, our programs. So we have leads on that. But when even leads are not always there, but then when people share their contacts with each other, they leave the room, they go home. When they come back, they sometimes there are some members they are missing, so they're always thinking about it. That's the purpose of that, and that's where if they are making that contact and if they are staying in touch, that solves the whole purpose. And I think that program is successful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'll pass it back over to Eric. It's so wonderful to hear all of your success stories, and we'll be collecting them. So please fill out your yellow sheets so that we can share more of these stories and work with you further on things that are going really well.
I don't know, I thought it was a gift.
You can have it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ashika, and thank you everybody for participating. I know that there was probably some really good ideas circulating in the room. I'd like to introduce Wendy Keeler, a great supporter of age-friendly initiatives and the family. I always say FCSS, and I get my tongue tripped when I try to say the real word, which is Family and Community Support Service. And she's the liaison for the city of it. Wendy.
This time, speaking in this format, the senior sector, I feel pretty grateful. So thanks so much, Eric, and thanks to the organizers today for inviting me to speak first from the perspective of the city of Edmonton. As many of you know, in 2010, Edmonton City Council declared Edmonton an age-friendly city. Maybe you were even right? And committed to embracing age-friendly principles as part of our vision for building an integrated, sustainable world for all residents. The city recognizes age as a gift and is committed to providing access to programs, activities, services, and spaces that support seniors to age well in community. We recognize that we're part of a diverse ecosystem to get these supports to seniors, and value all of the partnerships and collaborations with organizations like many of yours that help move the needle towards making a truly age-friendly city. During my 2 years tenure, I've only been here 2 years, so weird, just past the 2-year anniversary. I have been the city liaison for seniors focused initiatives, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I was new to the senior sector, and wow, have I ever learned so much. I know some of you have also become new to the senior sector and your roles in the last little while. And there's so much richness in the sector. So in the last 2 years, I've participated as a member of the Age Friendly Edmonton leadership table, attended many of these network gatherings, contributed to the design of the Senior Supported Outreach Program, and have been, of course, a friendly phone call away or email away to many of you to help you connect to city programs, city funding, learning opportunities, etc. Also other initiatives with my colleagues across both my branch of social development and the city to help you link in and get information on other initiatives that may support seniors that you're working with. It's been a total pleasure walking alongside you walking alongside you all these past 2 years, and I'm really looking forward to the new iteration of the network, Age Friendly Edmonton, joining together. As you know, there was so many alignments, and working in a more strategic way, I think, will really help us move towards really making Edmonton a city. So with that said, I'd like to now introduce you to Glenda Tarnowski, the former co-chair of Age Friendly Edmonton, to provide you with an overview of the initiatives of Age Friendly Edmonton.
What an inspiring day. I think one of the things that I'm taking away today is something that I'm hearing a lot of reframing of language around how we think about aging. I'm one of those kind of seniors. And also just wanted to say that last year I retired, and when I retired, which maybe surprised some, I said to them, I'm not really retiring, but I'm rewiring. So I encourage you to think about it that way. When we hit a point in our normal life course of retirement or going on to the next chapter, we have the opportunity as seniors to reframe that for those who are coming along behind us, or for those who are seniors, recognizing there's 4 decades of seniors today. So the seniors in their 60s can be very different from the seniors in their 100s. Those who know me well know I'm a goal setter. And so I have set my goal on becoming a centurion like my auntie who will turn 105. So thank you for inviting me to share on behalf of Age Friendly Edmonton, a City of Edmonton and Edmonton Seniors Coordinating Council initiative that I've had the pleasure of co-chairing with Dr. Anwar Haq for the last 4+ years. Age Friendly is an international movement in which cities and communities around the world are preparing for 2 major demographic trends: aging of populations and urbanization. As Wendy said, in 2010, the City of Edmonton became a member of the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly cities and communities, joining a collective of over 450 communities in 37 countries, along with 11 affiliated programs. At Age Friendly Edmonton, our volunteers have been our greatest strength, many of whom are with us here today. Our collective, collaborative individuals from the public, community, and healthcare sectors brought together people with ideas, drive, and talent who work tirelessly to make Age Friendly Edmonton the success it has been over the past several years. Join me now in a reflection of photos of Age Friendly Edmonton in action, supporting seniors in community and their well-being. It's my pleasure to share with you some of the highlights of the initiative as we view the fix. The positive impact our work has had in the community to achieve our vision of Edmonton as a community to achieve that respects and actively supports the safety, diversity, and well-being of older adults, making Edmonton a city of choice for healthy, active, inclusive, and creative aging. Engaging older adults and the broader community has occurred in a variety of ways, from the creation of an Aging is Universal Ageism infographic highlighting the impacts of ageism in society and ways to address age-related stereotypes, to community consultation and workshops on the impacts of ageism, and several publications focused on the inclusion and value of older adults in society, the impacts of ageism, caring for family caregivers, many of whom are older adults, and how to communicate to, with, and about older adults in a respectful and inclusive way. We also produced 2 seasons of the Shared Mic podcast, Conversations for the Ages, which brings together intergenerational perspectives on a variety of topics, including love, being a role model, and moving to Canada. This highly successful podcast has proven to not only engage but inspire listeners to embrace aging across generations. We supported the launch of a Cycling Without Age Edmonton chapter in partnership with Greater Edmonton Foundation through the purchase of Trishaws as a part of the Pan-Canadian initiative focused on enhancing the quality of life for all Canadians, one bicycle ride at a time. In 2020, in response to the impact of COVID-19, we provided community support to seniors aimed at reducing social isolation experienced by so many. Over the past 3+ years, we've connected with many seniors through the delivery of packages and the launch of the online Lunch and Learn series, which we've now produced over 20 episodes, connecting many seniors to topics that impact older adults, including tips for successfully aging in place, employment and engagement later in life, and gerund technology, to name a few. In 2020, the City of Edmonton and Edmonton Seniors Coordinating Council and Age Friendly Edmonton collaborated to refresh the Edmonton Seniors Declaration, accompanying the Gift of Age, that captures and celebrates the diversity, perspectives, and lifelong contributions of older adults within our community. And in 2023, in partnership, Age Friendly Edmonton and Edmonton Social Planning Council developed a toolkit for fostering inclusion in senior-serving organizations, recognizing Edmonton is a diverse city and creating spaces where everyone feels welcome and safe is crucial. Using insights shared by seniors from diverse backgrounds, the toolkit is based on existing practices that fosters the inclusion of seniors and ideal practices that they would like to see in place. The toolkit provides a checklist so that organizations can assess their state of operation and consider actions towards improvement. Recognizing many older adults, family caregivers, and family members are challenged when navigating the housing system, Age Friendly Edmonton developed a housing tool. The aim of the tool is to complement and build on existing housing information and provides a simple overview about the types of seniors' housing options based on individual needs and information on who to contact about their housing needs now and in the future. We've also hosted many events, annual Seniors Week celebrations in the community and at City Hall, recognizing the vast talents and contributions of Edmonton seniors. This year, we invited Edmonton seniors to reflect and submit poems on the theme of Through the Eyes of Experience. We had an overwhelming response to that call that resulted in the publication of a chapbook of poems, which is available for you on the back table today. We've also embraced artistic celebrations of Edmonton's older adults in recognition of International Day of Older Persons, October 1st, and Ageism Awareness Day on October 7th. We've hosted guest talents that included senior poets, Indigenous flutists, powwow dancers, and the Wild Rose old-time fiddlers, and of course tap dancers from Central Lions Club. Over the years, we've also had the pleasure of working collaboratively for that collective impact we've spoken about and made numerous community partnerships throughout the years. As our North Star, Age Friendly Edmonton's been focused on ways to strive for improvements and engagement, value and inclusion of older adults within the community. We feel that's exactly what we were able to do over the past several years, recognizing that there's always opportunity to expand on our efforts. As Eric mentioned in today's opening, over the past year and a half, Age Friendly Edmonton Leadership Table has been exploring opportunities toward broadening our reach and the possible integration of our efforts with those of the community-based senior serving network in an effort to build the capacity to respond to and support the needs of older adults in community. Through consultation, feedback, and co-design, we are pleased to say that the integration of the two initiatives has occurred. I'd now like to invite my colleague, Eric Story, to share more about the integrated network and the vision for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Wendy. We're really fortunate to live in a city that supports these initiatives so well. And I think, we have to recognize the value of this city and what it contributes to a lot of community organizations in terms of community building. That's so important. But I'd like to take the next couple of minutes to introduce you to the current stewardship group. Now, there are 10 members of the stewardship group, and those that are here, I'd like to ask you if you just stand and wave when I call your name. Dr. Haydon Lang, Sonia Zarkov, Sonia Zed, Sheena Jaffer, Dorothy Lowry, and me. There are also a few members who aren't able to attend today. That's Jan Beeston, Karen McDonald, Nigel Kell, Dr. Karen Chan, and Dr. Stephanie Chambers. So I think we've accomplished a lot of things in the past little while. And I think that if we reflect on what has already happened, how much potential there is for the future by bringing this group of people together. I take a few minutes to thank people who organized this event and worked very hard on bringing it together. Dr. Kyle Whitfield, Linda Karosky, the staff of ESCC, and Dr. Karen Chan, who could not be here today, donated the gift basket for today's door prize. Please give them a round of applause. Now, staying engaged. We have a staying engaged feedback form, which Sheila will talk about in a moment, but I'd also like to ask Sheila to come up and provide us with some closing remarks. Sheila is the Executive Director of the ESCC, in case you don't know.
Thank you, Eric. First, I want to thank all of the folks that came and spoke today, Michael and our panel, and to thank you all for coming today. And I'm bringing season's greetings, even though we're not quite into the season yet. But I also want to provide you with some ideas for how you can stay engaged with the network. And that's important because we are blending and we are moving onward and up. And we want to make this a big effort in Edmonton and to really try and attract more people into this work. We know we have lots to do, but we had lots to celebrate today as well. And I hope you take that away today. But some of the ways that you can stay engaged is to come to other network gatherings. Sometimes we do them online, and other times we bring people together. So welcome anybody who wants to join us. We have updates that we share via our link letter. You can sign up for link letters. We also have opportunities for people to be involved in actions, whether that's planning the event at City Hall or planning lunch and learns or other activities. It's really hands-on opportunities if you like that kind of work, or you might be interested in something that is more strategic, and you can stay tuned for we'll
be recruiting more members for our collective leadership for the stewardship group, so you can stay tuned about that. We also want to give you an opportunity today to contribute to what could potentially be a success. And it's something that's coming up right away, in fact, next week. And City Council, as you know, has been in budget debates, and they are coming to the end of that. And one of the things that is before them on the supplementary operating budget, which is unfunded, Michael, you'll know more about this, but is having a snow removal assistance program for low-income seniors and persons with disabilities. So this program, if they fund it, would have city staff be able to connect people to access the special needs benefit, which would activate a $1,300 a year benefit if they haven't already tapped into that. And they would also have a big request for proposals to find snow removal vendors in the city that could do this for low cost and get those people out there shoveling the snow for low income seniors. And so this, we think, would make a huge difference for a lot of people, especially as we've been doing home sports for years through the coordinating council and district agencies. It's always very difficult to find low cost options for snow removal, which is such an essential service. We heard Michael today talk about the story of a woman who had fallen and how difficult that was for her to get up, and how ice can be such a treacherous thing for people. It can keep you from leaving your home. So this is such an important opportunity, but it may not have the support it needs to get through on the budget. And so I brought today a bit of some messaging that we are trying to activate people to call your city councilor or the mayor's office or send them an email. I've got a map on the back in case you don't know what ward you're in. I've got the phone numbers of the councilors and some of the messaging. So if you're willing, this could be a success that you could all be part of, and we'll hear about the results of it early next week. So I challenge us all to be part of creating this success for low-income seniors. So come see me if you're willing to help with that. The other thing is that we'll have folks coming around to your tables with the feedback form. We really want to capture from you what you liked today, what you're taking away from today, and things that maybe we can look to for next time to do better. So we want to really thank you for coming and give you a few minutes to fill out those forms. And Carolyn, I guess they're coming around to tables. Oh, they're down. So they're on your table. So please take a few moments to fill those out. And I'll come around, and if you want to take some advocacy documents, I'm happy to hand those over.
Okay, just while they're distributing the forms, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. As soon as you filled out your form, why don't you go and enjoy some lunch and talk among yourselves. You're all here for a reason, and that is to talk about various projects that you can enlist other people to help you with. It need not be with another organization. It could just be 4 people decide to get together and do something. But you're here as organizations, and it's wonderful. So thank you again for coming today. Please enjoy lunch, and please talk a lot.